So in this video tutorial, I'll teach you guys how you can build this mining machine using the mod Red Power. A couple things about this real quick. I'm just going to show you how it works. I'm going to start by turning this on, and this, and then that switch sends it down. Now, as you can see there's a lot of switches to this model. Now, the thing is, I'm not teaching you guys how to build the most efficient model. This is just something I experimented with, and it's run out of frames, but that's okay. I wanted it to. This is something that I've experimented and I built over the last 2 days, and I just wanted to share with you guys so that some of you who are just starting out can basically learn some of the ins and outs of this, and then hopefully improve on the design. This is not a perfect design, and by that I mean there's just a lot of levers to it. It's actually pretty well contained, and it has a deployer and a block breaker, which is a really nice feature. It also doesn't break itself unless you let it hit bedrock. And in which case, if it does hit bedrock, this wire right here will pop off. Don't know why, just does. Don't hit bedrock. This is another of the exact same model, and I just want to point out before I begin that one of the niceties of this model is that the entire thing is mobile, which means if I put a frame here, I can move the entire thing, which means it has the capability for more accesses, but as it stands, this model is only concerning itself with up and down. So, like I said, the basics. Before I begin, really quickly, I just want to make sure you guys understand some of the basics of Red Power and how it's put together, and I'll be incredibly brief. This is a motor. Very important because they can move these frames in different directions, which is how this entire operation works. One of the things about motors that you need to understand is that the frame needs to be touching this arrow in order to move in that direction when it's powered. And they need blue electric power and some sort of redstone input in order to actually signal the moving. So if you have a screwdriver, as you can see, I'm right-clicking on it and it will move the arrow, but it won't actually move it to the one we want, and that's because you have to hold shift and then click. And as you can see, now the arrow's in there because it spun the entire block. So shift click spins the entire block, and just regular right clicking will turn the block, but it's not moving any of the sides away from you. So that's about it. You can find some more information on that. There are some actual helpful YouTube videos on that. The next is incredibly important, and that's the difference between panels and covers. A panel looks like this, and a cover looks like this. And they're basically just different thicknesses of the blocks you cut using the mod Red Power. Now, panels are still sticky, because all these support frames, they're all sticky. They act like sticky pistons. They just hold whatever they're touching. But you can't place things like wire on them normally. By putting a panel on it, you can attach things to it, and it will stick. However, with a cover, things won't stick anymore. So if this were to move, this redstone would just pop off. But if this were to move, it would stay. And sometimes you need the panels, and sometimes you need the covers, and they're incredibly important. I'll be using different colors to indicate them as I build. And the final thing I just want to make sure you guys know is this is a redstone tube. When it receives power, well, it helps the block breakers do their job. Now, to connect it to a redstone source, like you see here, you need one of these. Not a gold jacketed wire, you just need a jacketed wire. You can use any material, pretty much. And there's some recipe lists that will teach you how to build this stuff if you guys don't know. They're online. They're great. So, as you can see, I did the exact same thing you can see here, but it's not connecting up. And the reason why is because you have to take more of this wire and click underneath the block. And then that will all connect. So if I put power through this, the tube will power. So those are just 4 really quick things that are incredibly important to this build. Alright, so we're going to start with this block in the sky, and we're going to make a 5x5 grid. Now, this will be the head of the mining, like the bore, if you will, but you can make it smaller or bigger, but I suggest for now you just follow along if you're just learning how to do this kind of thing, and you can make it bigger or smaller yourself later once you understand how this all works. Honestly, I'm still learning a lot about Red Power myself. So off the 5x5 grid, we're gonna have these 8 blocks extending down. and have the rain get in the way. Okay, well now that's out of the way. We're going to connect these, like so that you have this sort of framework. In addition to that, what we're going to do is put 3 more up here. And then another 3, like so, and then 1 more. These are pretty much all, yeah, in fact, I believe they are all of the frames you need for the mining head. So now we're just going to really quickly finish it up by placing the redstone pipe in each of these channels. And I'm going to go find the block breaker, which is somewhere in this mess. Here it is. And I'm going to put 5 block breakers in the channels connecting to the pipes. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, if you haven't figured this out already, why don't you just have all block breakers down here? Because this is going to get complicated, and that's like, then you'll have to make it go back and forth so that it can actually mine, and that's because if these were all block breakers, the device wouldn't work, because then you'd need tubes connected to all of them, but then there wouldn't be the support frames to pull it with the motors, unless the support frames were on the outside. But if they were on the outside, you'd need more block breakers, and you can see where this is all going. So yeah, don't don't wonder why anymore. That's why. So now that we have that, we're going to place some more tubes. We're going to come up here, and you can see in the center, on each of the sides, well, the center of this column, basically, we're going to place 2 more tubes. So you can just see them through there. I'm just trying to give you guys some nice angles so you can understand what I'm doing. Yeah. And we're going to finish with the piping by... Actually, this is the side I want the batteries on, so I'm going to come over here. You'll see why in a second. And I'm going to place it on this block, and then this block, and that block. And these will connect into our chests eventually, but I'll get to that in a moment. Now, I said a second ago, this is the side I want the batteries on. So here are the batteries. You don't actually need 3 batteries, I'm pretty sure, to make this model run. I just think it's easier, and it helps the device out a lot more. On top of the batteries, we need our actual motor, which is right there. Oops. So we're going to place it like that. Now, of course, those aren't looking the right way. So we're going to make it so the arrows are facing us on this side with the pipes. And then we're going to make them each look the other direction. So one points off to the left and one points off to the right, but they're both pointing at each other. And that's important, because if they're pointing the opposite way, you're going to break the device. So now we need to power this. And to do that, we basically just need to power the batteries. And to do that, we need some solar panels. But to do that... So I'm going to take these covers. I'm sorry, panels. I'm using red panels in this model, and I'm going to be using white covers, just so you see the difference in what I'm using. I'm going to take these red panels, and I'm going to panel the entire 5x5 grid. Because there will be things on all of this. Next, I'm going to go grab the solar panels. There we go. And I'm going to place them like this. Sorry about the little cut-in and cut-outs. I'm actually having a little bit of problems with Fraps right now. It just keeps drastically decreasing the frame rate sometimes, and I just have to give it a restart. Don't know why. I'll figure that out later. So now, these batteries will charge, and if we were to supply some sort of redstone input, let's just say a lever in this case, it would move this entire frame back and forth. To finish off the mining head, we're going to get some chests, and we're going to place 2 chests on either side, like so. As you can see, the piping eagerly connects into the chest, which is exactly what we want. That's happiness. we're going to take our jacketed wire, and I'm using gold right now because it's what's in my on my bar, but you can use any material as long as it's a jacketed wire, because we want that to connect to the pipe. Then we're going to take our alloy redstone that red power has, and we're going to click underneath the pipe and then off to the side. So good. Next, we're going to take a timer. And get rid of this chest because we're done with those. And we're going to put that down. And as you can see, everything's working. Yay. We're going to right click on the timer, and we're going to change the interval from 2 seconds to 1 second. There's going to be 4 timers in this particular model. And only one of them keeps the original 2-second time. Everything else is on 1 second. And we're going to take a lever and put it there, so that way we just don't have to listen to that all the time. Well, as you can see, our motors are now powered, which is nice. So we might as well just test this out and see if it's working. And it is. So we're ready to continue. Okay. So on top of the motors, we're going to place 2 frames, and then we're going to place 2 more to make an L. Coming around to the side, we're going to place 2 more going up like that. So now we have our mining arm, which is nice and important. Now we're going to take our panels. You can sort of see in the background, I'm basically just mirroring this. We're going to do that. Take some more. We're going to take 3 support frames on this side, and make a small little L, and then do the same on that side. Now I'm going to take some covers, and I'm going to put them down here, and I'll explain why. Normally there's not going to be a problem with this support frame and the solar panels underneath it. But if this hits bedrock, there's one little problem that happens, and it's still trying to deploy frames, and that's it glitches. And everything is pretty sturdy, but the wire that we're going to place right here will pop off if it hits bedrock. Which, honestly, that's not terrible for a machine breaking, if only that redstone wire pops off. But if these covers aren't here, then the solar panels underneath it will also pop off. So better safe than sorry, so I'm going to put the covers on. But I'm also going to make sure in my models that it's not going to hit bedrock. I'm not going to put enough frames in the deployer for it. Okay. So now we need to make sure that this all wires, so that this has some power. So we're going to do that with our redstone. Maybe not beautiful, but it is practical. And that's what these supports are for. Actually, in particular, that's what this support and this support are for, to keep this redstone from popping off. Which is pretty nice. Don't want that to pop off. Now, we're going to put a lever here, and we're going to grab another timer. And place it here. Now we're going to rotate this timer so that this long end, so the side opposite the torch, is looking at the lever. And we're going to turn it off because we don't need that to be on right now. But as you can see, it's all working. Which is nice, right? It's awesome when things actually work and come together. So this is the timer we're going to leave on the 2-second default. So just leave it alone. Okay. Next. Let's see. We're going to place down our motors. It's going to look like this. We're going to place one on this one, then another motor underneath it, and then a frame. Sorry, not there. Underneath the motor. Now, let's start by rotating these. We want them to be looking, since this is the arm, the main arm of the entire operation, we want it to actually be looking at the motor. So, as you can see, now I have both the arrows doing that, and we're going to do the exact opposite of what you might think. Or maybe the same as what you think. You'll see in a second. The top one is going to be pointing down, and the bottom one is going to be pointing up. And this will basically keep our machine from, well, really messing itself up. This is a really simple safety that will keep it from going too high, which I very much appreciate. Now, I threw my screwdriver. I retrieved my screwdriver. This is another one of those things. I cannot remember if this particular cover is important, but I would place it just to be sure, because there must be a reason why I had it. But looking back at my design, I can't figure out why I put it there. This one, on the other hand, is incredibly important. Definitely place that cover on this support underneath the motor. By the way, right now, if you're following along, yours could look a little different. It could look like this, and that's just because, well, it moved over when I was testing it. So I'll just keep it like this for now. So from here, we're going to go out 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and fill this in. So now we have a sort of like a pad that's 4 by 5, which is what we want. And we're going to go up 2 on these 3. Okay. So obviously, if this is our support arm, or the motors that run the support arm, we need it to, well, work. We need it to be wired and have energy. And there's actually a pretty easy way I do this. I got very lucky, I feel like, on this working. We don't need any more motors, so we're done there. And that's placing a battery right next to it. Oddly enough, that works fine. Now I'm just going to place these panels right here. Sorry, and take our solar panels. And I'm going to put 4 of them like that. On the other model, I have more. Or one of the other models, the first one I built, I have more. But you don't actually need more than 4 in order to power this, as long as it's day. So that's nice. I don't think we need any more batteries either. Or solar panels. I think we're done with those two. And we're going to place our blue wire right there. So with that done, eventually, our little battery is going to gain power, and it's going to power these motors. In the meantime, we need 2 other devices. We need the deployer and the block breaker. Deployer and the block breaker. So the deployer goes on top of the motor, or on top of the 2 motors, and the deployer goes on top of that. But getting it on there can be a pain because of the deployer being like an inventory. So I'm going to place these 2 support frames right there and then break them. So that's what I'm doing. So around this, I'm going to place another support frame here in front of the deployer. Now, I'm going to bring it back 3. Before I continue, I will tell you that this is kind of a design flaw on my part, for the time being. And that's that you don't really, since our controls are here and our deployer's there, we don't have access to it anymore. So resupplying it or removing frames is kind of a hassle on this model right now. But like I told you earlier, this is not supposed to be some sort of end-all Quarry machine. This is just supposed to teach you guys, well, how to build your own and hopefully improve off of that. So, I'm going to put 2 more frames this way, and then another this way. I'm going to come back over here and place 3 on top of that. And I'm going to come back down here and place 2 alongside the motors. And now you might be wondering, actually I just want to say this, why even have this frame here in the first place? You could just remove it. And yeah, you could remove it. In fact, I'll probably do the same when I'm just working with it in general. But in the future, if you want to have, since this entire thing is mobile, and if you want it to move in more than the up and down direction, this support frame is crucial since it holds the deployer in place. Okay. Now the rain is gone again. Wow, it just rains all the time. I'm going to take these covers, and I'm going to go to town. Go into town with the covers. Okay, there we go. Finally got it. Although I also need them up here as well. Alright, with those panels placed, we can go out into our inventory and let's first get the piping, which I think I just passed by. There you are. We're going to come back here and we're going to place it like that so that the deployer is connected to the block breaker. That way it's sort of a self-contained feed, which is nice. And while I have it out, I'm going to place the 2 redstone dust right there, or alloy, not dust, and my jacket right there so that this connects. So that's all. I don't need the wire anymore, and I don't need the jacket anymore. But what I do need is 2 colors of wire, and they can be any color, it doesn't really matter, but you will have to use one of the bundled cables that matches the color in a moment. And then a bunch of regular bundled cable. So, we're going to come over here. So right here is going to be our levers, and then right here is going to be our timers, which means right here is where we start wiring. So I have a system that I use, and that's I use white for up and blue for down. And the only reason I do that is not because the colors necessarily make sense, it's because white and blue are very easy to get in survival. And I don't need that there. I actually just need the bundled cable. Because I'm going to run the bundled cable around to here and here. Now, whatever you're using for your up, which would be my white, you're going to do 2 things. Number 1, since the up motor is the lower one, you're going to switch it so that whatever is your up color ends up being the bottom one over here, and vice versa. As you can see, blue is now up. But whatever is also your up cable, and I mean up as in the one on the other side, you're going to place that color bundle there. So since white is my up color, that goes up here. And the only reason I do this is because I'm keeping wires from crossing in a moment. Oop, I forgot a panel. There should be one more panel right there, and then another blue cable. So yeah, if the wiring gets crossed here, so I'm not sure exactly how this all works. I'm pretty good with wiring normally, but this is a little bit beyond me, since it's outside of vanilla. But I can tell you that this wiring works. If it was crossed, then it would send an up and a down, and the machine would just continuously go up and down, and not one direction anymore. But that wiring I just showed you, perfect. And we're going to get 2 timers. And we're going to place them right there. And as you can see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what happens when the wiring gets crossed, or if both switches are on at the same time. Which actually is pretty nice, because if this is the worst you can do to it, by turning both things on at once, and all it does is go up and down repetitively, and it doesn't break, that sounds amazing. So what we're going to do to fix this is, first of all, we're going to turn these off. And in addition, what we're doing is, you see this long arrow, the side opposite of the redstone torch? We're going to spin it so that both are touching each timer. And that way the timers don't get crossed, which can happen. So I'm just checking the wiring one more time. Everything's connected into the proper devices. The blue is connected into the deployer, so that since blue is my down color, it will always trigger the deployer. But since when it's going up, it doesn't need to trigger the deployer, that's why this white goes into here. I believe it will trigger anyway, but if there's a block here, the deployer can't do anything. So it's really self-contained in its and what can go wrong, which is really nice. So I believe we're ready to test it right now. So everything appears to be working there. Now this is what just so it doesn't hit bedrock, I'm just going to count. So this is like 3 or 4 blocks. 4 blocks. And then flat map is about 3 blocks before bedrock, so if I put in 7 frames, nothing bad can happen. Okay. So that's on. And now this is on. So I'll move that back and forth. So this is what I'm talking about, how it's not a great model, but it does teach you how this all works and how to build your own. So you can do whatever you want from there. and down. And our deployer is working, which is nice. And it is mining. Okay, I am so sorry. Let's send this back up. I forgot a very important step, and I do apologize, but it's not the end of the world. It just sort of demonstrates to you a little bit more about sticky frames. You know, how they, well, not sticky frames, frames and how they stick. Okay, please stop. And you stop too. As you can see, it picked up the dirt. And that's because I very foolishly forgot to coat the sides in covers. I knew I hadn't used enough covers. And I do mean every single side of this thing. Like that. And the other three sides and down here are going to be coated in covers, so that they can't pick up extra blocks. And that will keep it from breaking. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to test it again. Okay, so now I've done that. I have coated all of the sides in covers, which is nice. And in addition, there's one more thing I forgot, and that's we're going to change the time intervals to 1 second. So the reason for that is because when this is moving from side to side, which we have on a delay of 2 if you remember, it does not want to move up or down. But we want it to move up and down. So we're basically, by making this go off every second and that go off every 2 seconds, we're basically giving it priority. So let's try it again. There goes our deployer at work. That was my fault. I forgot to turn these back on. Wow, I am just so scatterbrained today, huh? But as you can see, look, it's picking up everything. You can see the dirt going in. Oh, and I just hit bedrock. I miscounted horribly. And like I told you, that one wire pops off. But that's the only design flaw, really, if it hits bedrock. And it's going back up. And all these can be turned off. And as you can see, there's our chests, and they each have some dirt in them, because that's all flat map has to offer. And there's our wire. So yes, don't let it hit bedrock. And if you don't let it hit bedrock, it's a great model. But I'm hoping that by making this tutorial, and you guys watching it, and how to build your own, that you'll learn, you know, the mechanics involved, and then outdo this one. Because that's really what the internet needs, is better models and people knowing how to make them. I'll put the map download in the description as well, so if you want to take a look at this firsthand, you are more than welcome to do so. So everyone, thanks for watching, and I hope this has been edumacational.